The vibration against the mahogany nightstand was a dull, insect-like buzz that sliced through the silence of the room, pulling me from a fitful sleep. The digital clock glowed a neon-red 3:14 a.m. Outside, the relentless Seattle rain drummed a melancholy rhythm against the windowpane, a sound that usually lulled me to sleep, but tonight felt like a warning. I reached for the phone with trembling fingers, the blue light stinging my tired eyes. It was a message from my daughter, Maya. The preview on the screen was long, but the first few words were enough to stop my heart. Mom, I know you poured your life savings into the Victorian house, but Genevieve thinks it would be best if you didn't come for Christmas dinner this year. We hope you understand. I read those words once, then twice. By the third time, the words ceased to be mere pixels on a screen and became physical blows. I didn't reply immediately. I couldn't. I sat up in the darkness, clutching the quilt to my chest, feeling a fracture spread through my soul, a clean break where my patience used to be. At that ungodly hour, the world feels heavier, as if the gravity of all our accumulated sorrows is magnified by the darkness. The silence of my small apartment was deafening. I thought about the truths I had been carrying like stones in my pockets for years, truths that had now become too heavy to bear. I had paid exactly $315,000 for the down payment and the extensive renovations on the Hawthorne property. It was meant to be a sanctuary for Maya and her husband, Liam. A place with a wraparound porch for the grandchildren I hoped they would one day give me, with bay windows that caught the rare Pacific Northwest sunshine. It was a house where, apparently, my presence was now considered a contamination. I rose from the bed, my joints stiff, and walked to the window without turning on the lamp. The streetlights cast long, distorted shadows on the wet pavement below. Across the city, in the affluent suburbs, the Christmas lights would be twinkling on the eaves of that beautiful Victorian home. I thought of all the times I had bitten my tongue until it bled. All the times I had plastered a smile over a grimace when a comment cut too deep. All the times I had said it is fine when absolutely nothing was fine. My name is Evelyn Thorne. I am 62 years old, a retired archivist who spent a lifetime preserving other people's histories while letting my own be erased. And on that morning of December 15th, something within the fundamental architecture of my character shifted. I picked up the phone again and typed a single, lowercase word, understood. What no one knew, not my daughter Maya, not her husband Liam, and certainly not Genevieve Street. Claire, the wealthy, passive-aggressive mother-in-law who had systematically scrubbed me from the family portrait, was that the Hawthorne property was still legally, entirely, and irrevocably in my name. I had signed every check. I held the deed. And in the cold light of that rainy morning, exhausted from being invisible, tired of being a utility rather than a human being, I made a decision. It was a decision that would detonate the facade of our perfect family Christmas. I wasn't going to that dinner. That was a given. But neither were they. No one was prepared for the storm that was coming because society teaches us that a mother's love is unconditional, but it forgets to teach that a mother's self-respect should be non-negotiable. Sometimes, when a woman finally grows tired of the noise, she doesn't scream, she simply acts, and the consequences are usually absolute. 4 years ago, when Maya first introduced me to Liam, I was genuinely elated. After my husband, Robert, passed away a decade prior, my world had shrunk considerably. Maya was my sun, my moon, and my stars. Liam seemed like a decent young man, an architect with grand visions and a gentle demeanor that put a mother's heart at ease. I remember the afternoon they came to my modest apartment to announce their engagement. Maya wore a slate-gray dress that brought out the blue in her eyes that held a sparkle I hadn't seen since she was a child. "Mom, we want you to meet Liam's parents next Sunday," she had said, her grip on my hand tight, almost desperate. I prepared a pot roast, glazed carrots, and the rosemary focaccia bread that Robert used to love. I set the table with the heavy silverware I had inherited from my grandmother, polishing every piece until it gleamed like a mirror. They arrived precisely at noon. Liam, his quiet and subservient father, Arthur, and her, Genevieve Street Claire. Genevieve was a woman who wore her wealth like armor. She was tall, painfully thin, with silver hair coiffed into an architectural marvel that defied the humidity. She wore a cashmere cardigan that probably cost more than my car, and a smile that was as cold as the bottom of a well. "Charmed. Mrs. Thorne," she said, offering a limp hand. "What a quaint little apartment. You have made such interesting use of the limited space." The word quaint stuck in my throat like a fishbone. She didn't say cozy, she didn't say welcoming. She said quaint, the way one describes a dollhouse or a peasant's cottage. During the meal, Genevieve dissected the food with surgical precision, barely eating. "Oh, I have a very refined palate," she sighed, pushing the rosemary bread away. "I cannot tolerate heavy, rustic cooking." Liam ate with gusto, and Arthur complimented the carrots, but Genevieve spent the entire hour visually appraising my furniture, my clothes, and my worth, finding all of it lacking. When they left, Maya hugged me at the door, her body tense. "Aren't they impressive, Mom?" Genevieve knows so much about art and culture. I smiled and nodded, a reflex honed by years of maternal protection. But deep in my gut, a cold stone of dread had settled. I had seen the look in Genevieve's eyes. It was the look of a predator assessing prey that was too weak to fight back. Still, I remained silent. A mother does anything for her daughter's happiness, even if it means swallowing the first bitter drops of poison. The wedding was a lavish affair. I paid for Maya's dress, a custom silk gown that cost $6,000, depleting my emergency fund. Genevieve organized the reception at a private country club overlooking the Sound. It was a vision of white orchids and crystal chandeliers. But during the toasts, Liam thanked his parents for the venue, for the wine, for their guidance. He thanked the guests for coming. He did not mention me. Maya looked for me from the head table, her eyes pleading. I raised my glass and mouthed, "It is okay," but it wasn't okay. It was the beginning of an erasure. Months later, on their first anniversary, they invited me to lunch at their cramped rental. "Mom, we have news," Maya said, her voice trembling with excitement. "We found a house, a Victorian on Hawthorne Street. It needs work, but it has good bones." Liam jumped in, his face flushed. "But we cannot afford the down payment, let alone the renovation costs. The market is impossible." Maya looked at me with those big, imploring eyes. "Mom, do you think you could help us?" Just for the start, I had worked 40 years in the city archives. I was frugal. I drove a 10-year-old sedan. I had saved for my retirement, for travel, for the peace of mind that comes with financial autonomy. But when Maya asked, the calculator in my head shut down and the mother in me took over. "How much?" I asked. $315,000. That was the number. It was nearly everything I had liquid. It was the result of decades of brown bag lunches and skipped vacations. It was my safety net. But seeing the hope in Maya's face, I convinced myself it was an investment in family. The house was a wreck when we bought it, but it was beautiful in a tragic sort of way. High ceilings, original molding, a garden that had gone wild. The day we closed on the deal, Maya danced through the dusty rooms. "This will be the nursery," she pointed to a sunny room. "And this," she stopped at a lovely room on the first floor with a view of the garden. "This will be your suite, Mom, for when you visit, or if you ever want to stay for a while." Liam nodded in agreement. "Absolutely, Mrs. Thorne. This house is your legacy, too." I felt my chest swell with hope. Perhaps I had been wrong about the dynamic. Perhaps this house would be the glue that bonded us. We signed the papers at the title company in late March. My lawyer, a sharp-witted old friend named Samuel, had insisted on one thing. "Evelyn, if you are putting up 100% of the capital, you remain the sole title holder. Protect yourself. Keep it in your name for at least 2 years." I nodded, feeling a pang of guilt for distrusting my own flesh and blood, but I signed as the sole owner. Maya and Liam were listed as tenants. When I explained this to Maya, she was understanding. "That makes sense, Mom. It is your money. When we get on our feet, we will buy you out." But that evening, while I was in their kitchen, helping scrub the cabinets, I heard Liam on the phone with Genevieve. "Yes, Mother." She put up the money, but she kept the deed in her name. There was a pause. No, it is not paranoia, her lawyer insisted. Another pause. I know, Mother, but we have to play along. Without her cash, we are stuck in that apartment. We just have to be patient. I stood frozen, the scrubbing brush dripping dirty water onto my shoes. Play along. Patient. As if I were a temporary obstacle to be managed. A toll booth on the road to their prosperity. I walked back into the room as if I hadn't heard a thing, but the trust had evaporated, leaving behind a residue of suspicion. Over the next 6 months, I became the project manager. I paid for the contractors, the materials, the new roof. I bought the Sub-Zero refrigerator Genevieve suggested was essential for a modern home. I restored the antique fireplace. I bought a massive, hand-carved oak dining table that could seat 12, envisioning Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas feasts. This is for our memories, I told Maya as the movers wrestled it into the dining room. She hugged me, whispering, "You are the best mother in the world." But the first time I tried to stay in my suite for a weekend, reality crashed down. I arrived on a rainy Friday with an overnight bag and a homemade lasagna. Maya opened the door, her face falling. "Mom? You didn't say you were coming. I sent a text yesterday, honey." "Oh, I must have missed it. It is just that." She glanced behind her. In the living room, sitting on the velvet sofa I had paid for, was Genevieve. She was sipping tea from a delicate cup, looking perfectly at home. "Mrs. Thorne, how unexpected," she drawled. "I didn't realize this was a boarding house." Maya looked frantic. "Mom, Genevieve is staying in the guest suite this weekend. Her house is being fumigated, the guest suite." My room. The room promised to me. I stood there, gripping the handle of my bag until my knuckles turned white. "Oh, I see. That is fine," I said, my voice tight. "I can sleep on the pull-out couch in the study." Genevieve laughed, a tinkling, cruel sound. "Oh, heavens no. The study is full of Liam's drafting equipment. Perhaps you should just come back another time, when we are more prepared for company." Company. In the house I owned. In the house I built. I looked at Maya, waiting for her to defend me, to say, "No, this is Mom's house. She stays where she wants." But Maya just looked at the floor, studying the grain of the wood. "I understand," I said softly. I handed the lasagna to Maya. "Enjoy dinner." I walked back to my car in the rain, the water mixing with the hot tears on my face. That was the moment the fracture began to widen. The following months were a masterclass in exclusion. Maya called less and less. When she did, it was brief. "Mom, can't talk, shopping with Genevieve." "Mom, Genevieve is taking us to the ballet." "Mom, Genevieve thinks your curtains are a bit dated, so she ordered new ones." One Sunday, I asked Maya about our traditional weekly coffee date. "Oh, Mom, we do brunch with Genevieve and Arthur on Sundays now. It is a Street Claire tradition. Can I come?" I asked, humiliating myself. Silence. "It is just that Genevieve is very particular about family time, Mom. She finds it hard to relax with strangers." Strangers. I was the stranger. I decided to kill them with kindness. I brought food. I offered to babysit their dog. I sent gifts. But every gesture was met with polite indifference or veiled criticism. One afternoon, I dropped off a beef stew. Genevieve was there, of course. She peered into the container. Oh, how rustic. Peasant food is so hearty, isn't it? We were just about to order sushi, but I suppose the dog might like this. Maya said nothing. She just took the container and put it in the fridge, behind the gourmet leftovers from Genevieve's favorite bistro. Then came my birthday, in October. I had planned a dinner at a nice seafood restaurant. I invited Maya, Liam, my sister Sarah, and a few friends. I sent the invites a month in advance. The day before the dinner, Maya called. "Mom, I am so sorry. Genevieve surprised Liam with tickets to a gala tonight. It is a huge networking opportunity. We can't say no." "But it is my birthday, Maya." "I know, Mom. We will celebrate next week. I promise. Just understand, this is for Liam's career." I canceled the dinner. I sat alone in my apartment, eating a cupcake I bought from the grocery store, staring at the unlit candle. Next week came and went. No celebration, no card, just a text. Happy late B-Day, Mom. Crazy week. Love you. November brought the cold and the creeping realization that I was entirely alone. Then came the call about Christmas. Mom, Maya said, her voice pitched high with nervousness. Genevieve wants to host Christmas dinner at the Victorian this year. She says her house is too large and echoing, and she wants a cozy family atmosphere. At the Victorian. My house. That sounds lovely, I said, testing the waters. I will bring my famous pecan pie. There was a pause, heavy and pregnant with rejection. Mom, about that, Genevieve has a specific theme. She is bringing a caterer. She wants everything to be cohesive. And she feels that, well, your presence might make things tense. Tense? Why? Because she finds you a bit overwhelming, Mom. She says you try too hard. And frankly, she wants it to be just immediate family. Immediate family. The woman who wrote the checks was not family. The woman who wiped the tears was not family. I am your mother, Maya, I whispered. I know, Mom. Please don't make this harder than it is. We will come see you on the 26th. We can do a quick lunch. I hung up the phone. I sat in my chair for hours as the sun went down and the room filled with shadows. I didn't cry. I was past crying. I felt a cold, hard clarity crystallize in my chest. The text message at 3:14 a.m. on December 15th was just the final nail in the coffin. It was the confirmation that I had been discarded. The morning after the text, I showered, dressed in my sharpest gray suit, and drove to Samuel's law office. He greeted me with a warm smile that faded as soon as he saw my face. Evelyn, what is wrong? I placed the folder containing the deed and the bank transfer records on his desk. Samuel, explain my rights to me. One more time. He reviewed the papers. You are the sole owner, Evelyn. They are tenants at will. They pay no rent. There is no lease. You have absolute power. Can I sell it? Yes. Without their permission? Yes. Can I evict them? Yes. 30 days' notice is standard, but since there is no lease and you are the owner, you can technically demand possession immediately upon sale. I want to sell it, Samuel. Immediately. He blinked, taken aback. Evelyn, are you sure? This is Maya's home. No, Samuel. It is my house. It is Genevieve's playground. Maya is just a guest there, and apparently, so am I. But I am done being a guest in my own life. Find me a buyer, cash only, quick close. I want it done by Christmas Eve. Samuel looked at me for a long moment, assessing my resolve. He saw the steel in my eyes. Okay. I have investors who have been eyeing that neighborhood. If you drop the price by 10%, we can close in a week. Do it, drop it by $20,000 if you have to. Just get it done. The next week was a blur of paperwork and inspections done while Maya and Liam were at work. I watched from my car down the street as the investor, a ruthless man named Mr. Sterling, walked through the property with Samuel. Sterling didn't care about the memories or the molding. He cared about the square footage and the resale value. He made an offer of $300,000. Cash. Closing date, December 23rd. I accepted. On December 23rd, I sat in a conference room and signed the papers. My hand did not shake. When Mr. Sterling handed me the cashier's check, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't realized was crushing me. The house was gone. It belonged to a corporation now. Mr. Sterling, I have one request, I said. The eviction notice. I want to deliver it myself. He raised an eyebrow. Unusual. But legally, as the previous owner, acting on behalf of the new management to facilitate vacancy, you can serve the notice. When? December 24th. In the evening. He smirked. You are a cold woman, Mrs. Thorne. I smiled, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I had excellent teachers. Christmas Eve arrived with a biting frost. I spent the day in a strange state of calm. I didn't cook. I didn't clean. I sat by my window and watched the world rush by. At 6 p.m., I dressed in a deep crimson dress I had bought years ago but never wore, because Genevieve had once told me red was too aggressive for a woman of my age. I put on my pearls. I applied red lipstick. I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger, a formidable stranger. I grabbed my purse, checking for the manila envelope containing the official eviction notice and the notice of sale. I drove to Hawthorne Street. The house was blazing with light. I could see the Christmas tree in the bay window, the one I had paid for. I could see shadows moving inside, laughter, warmth. I parked my car and walked up the path. I didn't knock. I used my key, the key they hadn't bothered to ask back because they thought I was too beaten down to use it. I opened the door and stepped into the foyer. The smell of roasted goose and expensive perfume hit me. Soft jazz was playing. In the dining room, under the crystal chandelier, they were seated. Genevieve was at the head of the table, holding court. Arthur was nodding. Liam was pouring wine. Maya was laughing at something Genevieve said. There were 5 settings at the table. The 5th was for a young woman I didn't recognize, probably a cousin of Liam's. There was no seat for me. Silence descended on the room like a guillotine blade as I stepped into the light. Maya dropped her fork. "Mom? What are you doing here?" Genevieve set her wine glass down slowly. "Evelyn, this is highly inappropriate. We asked you to give us space." I walked to the head of the table, standing directly behind Genevieve. She shifted uncomfortably. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. I spoke with the terrifying calmness of a judge delivering a sentence. "I am not here to eat, Genevieve. I wouldn't want to ruin your cohesive aesthetic. I am here to give you a gift." I pulled the manila envelope from my purse and dropped it onto the center of the table, right on top of the floral centerpiece. "What is this?" Liam asked, reaching for it. "Open it," I said. Liam tore open the envelope. He pulled out the documents. His face went pale, then gray. His hands started to shake. This can't be right." "What is it?" Genevieve snapped. "Read it, Liam." Liam looked up at me, his eyes wide with horror. "You sold the house? What?" Maya screamed, standing up. "You did what?" "I sold the house, Maya. Yesterday. The new owner is Mr. Sterling. He is a developer. He intends to gut it and turn it into luxury condos. And this," I pointed to the paper, "is your 30-day notice to vacate. Actually, since the sale is complete, Mr. Sterling would prefer you out by January 24th. Genevieve stood up, her face flushing a blotchy red. "You cannot do this. This is my son's house." "No, Genevieve," I corrected her, leaning in close. "It was my house. Paid for with my sweat and my savings. It was the roof I provided for my daughter. But you decided that the owner of the roof wasn't good enough to sit at the table. So I removed the roof." Maya was crying now, hysterical sobs. "Mom, how could you? We have nowhere to go." "You have 30 days, I said, coldly. "And you, Genevieve, with all your millions, I am sure you can find a place for them in your guest suite." "Oh, wait, isn't it being fumigated? Or was that just a lie to keep me out of the room I paid for?" Genevieve sputtered, looking for words that wouldn't come. I looked at the table, at the feast I wasn't invited to. "Enjoy the goose," I said. "It will be your last meal in this dining room." I turned on my heel and walked to the door. "Mom, wait!" Maya ran after me, grabbing my arm in the foyer. "Mom, please! We can fix this! We can talk!" I pulled my arm away gently but firmly. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. I saw the fear, but I also saw the weakness that had allowed this to happen. "You let her erase me, Maya," I said softly. "You sat there and watched her treat me like a servant in the home I bought for you. You chose your side. Now you have to live with the consequences." "But I love you," she sobbed. I smiled sadly. "I know you do, in your own way. But you don't respect me. And I have finally learned that love without respect is just a leash. Merry Christmas, Maya." I walked out into the cold night air. I heard the shouting start inside, the accusations, the chaos. I got into my car and drove away. I drove to a diner near the docks, ordered a slice of cherry pie and a coffee, and ate it in silence. It was the best Christmas dinner I had ever had. The fallout was nuclear. Maya called me 50 times a day. I blocked her number for a week. I needed the silence to heal. Liam sent emails begging for a reversal, claiming I was ruining their lives. I forwarded them to Mr. Sterling's legal team. Genevieve, stripped of her power, showed her true colors. She didn't take them in. She told them they were irresponsible for losing such an asset and that she couldn't have chaos in her orderly home. She abandoned them when they stopped being trophies and started being burdens. Maya and Liam had to move into a small, 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of the city. They had to sell most of the furniture because it wouldn't fit. The Victorian house was gutted 3 months later. I drove by once and saw the empty windows, but I felt no regret. A house is just wood and stone. A home is built on love, and that house had been built on exploitation. It took 6 months for me to unblock Maya. When we finally met, it was on my terms. She came to my apartment, alone. She looked tired, older. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse. She sat on my sofa and wept. "Mom," she said, her voice hoarse. "Genevieve hasn't spoken to us in weeks. She says we embarrassed her." I poured her a cup of tea. "I am not surprised, Maya. People like Genevieve only love reflections of themselves. When you cracked the mirror, you stopped being useful." "I am so sorry, Mom. I was so weak. I wanted her approval so bad that I threw yours away." I looked at my daughter and felt a flicker of the old warmth, but it was tempered now with wisdom. "I forgive you, Maya," I said. "But things are different now. I am not your bank. I am not your doormat. I am your mother. And if you ever let anyone treat me like that again, I will be gone for good. We are rebuilding. It is slow. The trust is fragile. Like a mended vase, it holds water. But you can still see the cracks." Maya and Liam are learning to stand on their own feet, without my money and without Genevieve's toxic influence. They are struggling, but they are growing. And me? I used the money from the sale to travel. I went to Italy. I took a painting class. I started living the life I had put on hold for 40 years. I learned the hard way that you cannot buy love, and you certainly cannot buy respect. You have to command it. Sometimes you have to burn the house down to see who is willing to stand with you in the ashes. And sometimes the most loving thing a mother can do is stop shielding her children from the consequences of their own cowardice. I am Evelyn Thorne. I am alone, but I am free. And for the first time in my life, that is enough.